Hello, everybody, and welcome to History/Law Bite number 34, dated September the 7th, 2020. I'm Walter, your mobile historian and blue-collar scholar. This History History/Law Bite, rather, is entitled Amending the United States Constitution. Now, amending the United States Constitution is indeed something that is seldom practiced, but very often preached. History and politics have turned what is nominally a very simple process into a treacherous one, which is why most constitutional amendments never make it out of Congress, let alone to the states for their ratification. Since 1789, there have been more than 11,000 proposed amendments to the Constitution of the United States, probably 92% of which have never made it past the congressional graveyard. That's a lot, indeed. Since 1789, our Constitution has only been amended 27 times. And if you really want to be technical, the first 10 amendments really should have been a part of the original document. They shouldn't have been amendments, So the remaining 17 amendments we accept, as they have just reflected the changes in the country over time. Nevertheless, the Constitution of the United States stipulates the amendment process in Article 5 of the document. Two ways are given for the Constitution to be amended. The first is by a congressionally proposed amendment, which to date is the only way it has ever been done. And the second methodology is by way of an Article 5 convention. That, folks, has never been done and is not likely to ever occur. We're not going to get heavy into that, but I'll touch more on it towards the end. We'll focus on the only way constitutional amendments have ever borne any fruit in America. And that method is by way of congressional proposal. Indeed, Congress may propose constitutional amendments when they deem it necessary and proper. Article 5 vests them with this power. An amendment may originate in either house of Congress, and like any other bill, it would go through committee first before being voted upon in either house, each house rather, In both the Senate and the House of Representatives, the proposed amendment must be approved by 2/3 of the members in each house. So that's about 66 to 67%, well above a simple majority. Assuming that the amendment passes that hurdle, it then goes to the states for ratification. Now, Congress has the power to decide under the terms of Article 5 how the amendment will be ratified once it gets to the states. It has two choices. Choice number 1, by way of the state legislatures, and choice number 2, by conventions in the states. All the amendments, with the exception of Amendment 21, have been done by way of the state legislatures. The 21st Amendment is the only amendment to date which was ratified by way of conventions in the states. So, for the sake of argument and time, we will focus on the primary way it has been done, by state legislative approval. Once the amendment goes to the states, assuming Congress has decided that it will be ratified by the state legislatures, if they choose to ratify it, the amendment would need to then be approved by the legislatures of 3/4 of the states. That's roughly 38 of 50 states. Not an easy hurdle to overcome. Indeed, many amendments have overcome the congressional hurdle and made it out this far, and have been ratified by a litany of different states. But many have failed to meet that crucial 38 mark. Okay? It has been tradition for quite some time now for Congress to set a sunset date on a proposed amendment, assuming it gets to the states, so that if the amendment is not ratified by a certain time, it will automatically die, and that will be that. Should Congress not set a sunset date on the proposed amendment, then it will, in perpetuity, be pending business before the state legislatures, okay, until they ratify it, okay? However, in modern times, we have not seen any amendments without sunset provisions as to prevent amendments from being just permanently out there without any chance of ever getting ratified, okay? But if the amendment should clear the hurdle of being ratified by at least 3/4 of the states, or at least 38 states, it will then, for all intents and purposes, be declared ratified and a fully functional part of the United States Constitution, fully operative and effective. Okay? The Secretary of State would normally declare such amendment to have been ratified by the requisite amount of states, and therefore effective and operative. To date, the most recent amendment to be ratified was the 27th Amendment to the Constitution concerning the subject of congressional pay. You might find it interesting to know that the 27th Amendment was one of the original amendments proposed to the United States Constitution. All right? It, however, took that amendment some 202 years to be ratified. That holds the record for the longest amendment that sat as pending business before the state legislatures and having not been ratified before it was finally ratified in 1992. Okay, just thought you'd like to know that. So let's bounce back real quick to this Article 5 convention. Now, an Article 5 convention would be a constitutional convention that would have to be called by the Congress, assuming that the legislatures of 2/3 of the states apply for it. Okay? We came very close to such a convention in the 19-teens. Okay? But seeing as how we came that dreadfully close between the period of 1910 through 1912, Congress immediately passed, the amendments for which such an Article 5 convention would have likely forced through. Okay? Congress is not likely to allow an Article 5 convention to happen because I can tell you one thing, folks. In an Article 5 convention, everything, and I do mean everything, would be on the table. Okay? Nothing would be safe. In an Article 5 convention, for which the same ratification procedures would have to be followed, Anything that came out of that convention would have to be ratified by 3/4 of the states, Nothing would be off the chopping block. If that convention wanted to modify Congress itself, that could be a possibility, or the presidency, or the federal judiciary, or a whole structure of federalism. Nothing would be off the table. So I say that to say, because of the potentially devastating effects of an Article 5 convention, we are not likely to ever see it happen. If the American public wanted something so bad, such as United States senators to be elected by the people, as was done with the 17th Amendment, or shall we say, congressional power to collect, reforming the way Congress can tax incomes, okay, with the 16th Amendment, okay? If something was sought that badly, Congress would have no choice but to pass such amendments, because they would know that the alternative may well be an application by 2/3 of the states for an Article 5 convention. And that little tiny thing that you didn't want to pass, like a little hole in the roof, may soon turn into a mighty, mighty hollow, all right, for which there is no escape, all right? It would turn into a hole that water would come in by the gallons and there would be no way to turn around. So this is why I assert that an Article 5 convention is not likely to ever occur, and that all future amendments, as all past amendments to the Constitution of the United States, will come from the Congress and be ratified by the states accordingly. Remember, the amendment will originate in either house of Congress and must be passed by a 2/3 majority in both houses of Congress, 66 to 67% of the members. Assuming they decide that the state legislatures will ratify the amendment as opposed to conventions in the states, then the amendment is sent to the states, probably with a sunset provision, and will have to be ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 or 38 of the states, upon which, if that happens, it will then be, for all intents and purposes, a ratified and fully operative part of the United States Constitution. I thank you very much for listening to this History/Law Bite. If you have any questions about this subject, put them in the comments below. Ask away. This is why I'm here, to answer your questions about history and constitutional law. All right? It's my job to help you learn, and I take great pride in doing so. Again, thank you for listening. I wish you well. Share this information with others, and make sure you have an awesome day. Take care.